Give it to me the easy way. Manolo, Manolo! Help! Let me go. After the devastating and prolonged war in Spain finally ended, a large military convoy stops at the bustling station to allow the weary soldiers to disembark and rest. Among them is a soldier named Pepe, who will travel with his two younger brothers. Manolo, 16 years old, and Jesus, 8. While Pepe buys the bus tickets, Jesus wanders off to look at some comic books at a kiosk. Manolo comes over to watch him and notices that there's a pretty girl there absorbed in reading magazines. The young man, with his hormones raging, can't take his eyes off her. However, suddenly, Pepe calls them and pulls them over to get them on the bus. On the bus, a soldier friend of Pepe's is also traveling with them. The two men take the boys to a sanatorium that treats children with symptoms of tuberculosis, a disease that has been wreaking havoc for months. On the bus, Manolo laments not being able to see the young woman again, unaware that his journey toward love and desire is just about to begin. After a long journey, they arrive at a stop at night, where an old man introduces himself as the caretaker of the sanatorium. He offers to take them in a small cart to their final destination. Once at the sanatorium, they are greeted by a beautiful doctor named Irene, who assigns them a room. The only problem is that Manolo is too old to be there, since they only accept children under 12 years old. However, the doctor makes an exception for Pepe and calls a nurse named Vicenta to assign them a bed in the dormitory she manages. So, at bedtime, Manolo has to share the room with 10 other children who are sleeping soundly. At that moment, Vicenta comes in to give Jesus some medicine and turns off the lights. Then, she changes clothes behind a screen that reveals her silhouette. Manolo, who was about to go to sleep, stops to watch with fascination the shadow of the woman undressing and going to bed. At dawn, Pepe and his friends say goodbye to the boys, promising to return in a couple of months or when they are free of tuberculosis symptoms. Now that they are left alone in the large Catholic sanatorium, Jesus' days revolve around studying at the sanatorium school and playing with his classmates. Meanwhile, Manolo spends his time reading and walking around the grounds. He is always looking to interact with a woman. He even keeps a calendar where he marks the times he gets close to one. The following night, Manolo dares to move the screen so that he can see part of the nurse's body through the slats. Nervous, he lies down on the bed so as not to be seen, and after a while, Vicenta. She turns off the lights as usual and enters behind the screen to change, unaware that young Manolo can see her. The boy, so aroused, ends up pleasuring himself. After a few weeks, the preschool teacher is not satisfied with Manolo reading alone, so she commits to teaching him. Because of this, the teenager ends up in the classroom with his brother Jesus. On one occasion, the teacher falls asleep, which leads Jesus to get up and tell Manolo that he has wet himself because the teacher didn't let him go to the bathroom. Suddenly, the woman wakes up and sees Jesus standing. Quickly, she grabs him by the ear, and she takes her wooden ruler to give him a few hard smacks on the hand. Outraged by the teacher's outburst, Manolo stands up and grabs the woman by the arm to stop her from hitting his little brother. Feeling offended, Manolo is taken before Irene. There, the teacher claims that he was going to hit her, but the boy defends himself. After hearing both sides, Irene does not scold Manolo, but instead asks him to leave the room. The teacher is furious, as she cannot allow indiscipline or let the boy do whatever he wants. With an annoyed look, Irene tells her that it's her own fault for wanting to include him in the classes with the little ones. From now on, Manolo will study on his own in the library. Soon the rumor spreads that Manolo hit the teacher. It spreads throughout the sanatorium. So Vicenta runs to the library to ask him if it's true. He denies the claims and doesn't give the matter any more importance. Curiously, Vicenta doesn't seem angry with him. In fact, she almost applauds him, knowing the teacher's temperament. At that moment, she sees him using a microscope and becomes curious about how it works. Manolo explains it to her and shows her what a hair and saliva look like through it. The woman is fascinated, and then he has a clever idea that makes him run toward the bed where he sleeps. If science advances thanks to clever people, Manolo is about to win a Nobel Prize for applied audacity. As he leaves, he runs into another girl named Paquita, who comes in to see what they're doing. Shortly after, Manolo returns with a sticky substance that he places on the microscope slide. And he asks them, "What is this?" Paquita thinks it's milk, but Vicenta is doubtful. So with a mocking smile, Manolo comments that it's a man's liquid. Vicenta gets so angry that she throws books at him, while Paquita laughs. that night. Before going to sleep, Vicenta asks Manolo if he's afraid of going to hell for touching himself. He replies that he is, but his urges are stronger. The woman concludes that the boy is hopeless, so she ties his hands to the bed to keep him from touching himself that night. And so Manolo ended up living a Christian version of 50 Shades of Grey. Shortly after, Vicenta leaves the sanatorium without any warning, forcing Irene to quickly look for a replacement. Fortunately, a relative of the priest from the sanatorium's chapel is available to help. So in no time, Maria Jose arrives, a beautiful young woman, the same age as Manolo. The first night Maria Jose sleeps with the children, she turns off the light and goes behind the screen to change. Manolo, watching her closely, notices that she is using a typewriter. Curious, he gets up to see what she's doing, and he realizes that she is practicing shorthand with a wooden toy. He finds the girl's dedication endearing, and without realizing it, he falls hopelessly in love with Maria Jose, to the point that he stops touching himself and stops studying, as he can't concentrate on reading. Instead, he has started writing her love letters. One day, he musters up the courage to invite her to watch a movie in the library. However, he still needs the help of his little brother Jesus. He asks him to tell Maria Jose to go to the library. So Maria Jose comes, excited. For Manolo, watching a movie is something normal, but for her, it's a unique moment since she lives in a small town. And to go to the movies, she has to travel all the way to the capital. Afterwards, they start talking, getting closer and closer. At that moment, Manolo can't resist the temptation, so he steals a kiss from her. Maria Jose is shocked and calls him fresh before leaving. The situation leaves the young man very disappointed, but he is so in love that he's willing to try again. A few minutes before going to bed, Maria Jose is in the bathroom brushing her teeth. Suddenly, Manolo comes in to confess that he's in love. This time, Maria Jose is captivated, so she lets herself be kissed. But the kiss is interrupted by footsteps approaching the bathroom. Quickly, Manolo hides inside a stall and Maria Jose pretends to be rinsing her mouth. Then, the stern face of the teacher appears in the bathroom, and she scolds the young woman for not having gone to bed. Then, she knocks on the stall door for him to open it. Manolo peeks out, so the old woman asks him to stand up and asks what he is doing. Without a hint of shame, he gets up from the toilet, exposing himself, and says that he's defecating. The teacher is horrified to see him naked, so she lets him continue. The next day, during the communal lunch, the teacher mentions to Irene that they need to keep an eye on Manolo and Maria Jose, because he has something big between his legs, like an average adult. This revelation fills Irene's mind with lewd thoughts. In the following weeks, Maria Jose and Manolo kiss in secret whenever they can. One of their favorite places is the library, where he asks her to show him her breasts. Laughing, the girl refuses, saying she's sure the romance between them is just a passing thing. After all, he's a boy from Madrid and she's from a small town. What chances do they have? On one occasion, Manolo and Maria Jose stay in the kitchen chatting. Lost in the moment, they decide to kiss. And that's when they're caught by Irene, who is shocked by such shamelessness. As punishment for this behavior in a religious sanatorium, she locks Manolo in a room while Maria Jose is taken away. The strange thing is that Irene locks herself in with Manolo, so he demands the key from her so he can go after the girl, putting on a seductive face. She hides the key between her breasts and says she won't give it to him. This leads to a struggle in which Manolo ends up falling on top of Irene, who hugs him. Realizing the doctor's intentions, he forgets about Maria Jose and has his first experience with a woman. 2 days later, Paquita runs to give Manolo a letter from Maria Jose. In it, she says she wants to see him immediately in the woods near the sanatorium. Excited, the boy runs to meet her. When he sees her, he hugs her, and moved, she tells him that her father hit her with a belt, leaving marks. Faced with this, Manolo thinks the best thing would be for them to run away together. She replies that it won't work because the guards would stop them. What could work though is if they had a child, since that way they would be forced to get married. Manolo agrees with the idea, so they set out to make the baby right there on the grass. The next day, Pepe arrives at the sanatorium to take Manolo out for his day off. The man wants to see Irene, but she doesn't show up after having slept with Manolo, as guilt is eating her up inside. Pepe, Manolo, and Pepe's military friend leave the town on a motorcycle. On the way, they run into Maria Jose, her family, and the priest. She runs to hug Manolo, shouting for him not to leave her because she loves him. Manolo jumps off the motorcycle to grab her, intending to take her with him, but the priest stops him and threatens him with death. A big commotion breaks out, and it is Pepe who drags Manolo away from there. Back on the motorcycle, they continue on their way. At one point, when Pepe falls asleep, Manolo takes his brother's gun, trying to end his own life. Fortunately, Pepe wakes up and manages to take the weapon away from him. Because of this, Manolo begins to cry for having lost the first love of his life. That is how their journey ended. As always, no one comes out unscathed from their first war. In love. Now it's your turn. Don't pretend to be a saint. And click on another video because things are just starting to get sinful.